Coming up, the real reason WWE is pushing Aalyah Mysterio, WWE Ban CM Punk, changes to Retribution, and more.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Smash that subscribe button and enable notifications to always on to get daily wrestling videos. After starting sometime in the mid-19th century, the Seth Rollins vs Rey Mysterio feud took a controversial new turn last month, transitioning from the Messiah faction trying to take down the Mysterio family storyline to a star-crossed lovers relationship angle between Seth's disciple Murphy and Rey's daughter Aleyah. Because where do you go once you've ripped a man's eye out? Book a ginger guy to go out with their 19-year-old daughter. Friday's SmackDown saw their first on-screen kiss, with Aleyah declaring her love for Murphy in front of her father and brother. The angle received renewed criticism from Twitter, with many fans made uncomfortable by the 32-year-old buddy kayfabe going out with 19-year-old Aleyah, especially in the wake of July's Speaking Out movement. But as the storyline's defenders point out, both are above the legal age of consent, and there is no position of trust relationship being abused. No matter what your personal feelings are on the matter, though, one Eric B from Wyoming's wrestling booking philosophy still holds true. Controversy creates dem clicks. WrestlingNews.co has reported that Vince McMahon is a big fan of Aleyah and her work so far. Originally, she was only meant to be on screen for a short while, likely only in the background as part of the Dominic push, but Vince asked the writers to come up with more for her to do because clips of her segments were performing above average on YouTube, which, as Vince himself said on last Thursday's Q3 investors call, is one of the only metrics that shows WWE fandom increasing. Gotta love those Russian bots. Note to self: buy more subscribers. Rather astoundingly, Aleyah's segments have averaged over 1.5 million views, which is far higher than other clips from SmackDown on YouTube, and just as much as ones featuring Roman Reigns. Even a clip from Friday's Talking Smack of just Rey and Dominic discussing her relationship with Murphy, which she wasn't even on, far outdrew a lot of SmackDown on YouTube, pulling in over 800,000 views alone. So Vince has got his main man on the case, with Ringside News adding, so do take this with a pinch of salt, that with executive director Bruce Pritchard not at this week's SmackDown, Triple H had a big influence on the Aleyah angle on Friday's show. WrestlingNews.co even noted Vince might offer her a full-time contract as he sees star potential in her. Alexa Bliss, start a 24-hour timer for Aalyah Mysterio's WWE push ending.
Aalyah Mysterio's WWE push ending timer, 24 hours, starting now.
Gotta love that Alien Mysterio. But while Vince is high on Aleyah, it's a very different case for the man who sung happy birthday to her all those years ago at WrestleMania 26. Back in August, facing disastrously declining ratings, WWE panicked and threw Raw Underground, Retribution, and the Thunderdome at a wall. But 1 out of 3 ain't bad, as while those first two have been dropped or buried, the Thunderdome has been a resounding success. But also because the internet is the place that made Boaty McBoatface happen, letting fans stream their live reactions directly into a nationally televised broadcast of Raw or SmackDown, we're going to have a few people exploit the situation. Because this wasn't just the internet, this was the internet plus wrestling fans. The majority was harmless fun, with more Pikachus than you could shake a Metapod at. But it also saw genuinely douchebag behavior like streaming footage of a KKK rally and a graphic beheading video. WWE have eradicated this since those first 2 weeks of teething issues, and thanks to a new behind-the-scenes video tour of the Thunderdome by the company that created it called The Famous Group, it's been revealed what else WWE have banned from their shows. Briefly glimpsing a printed-off list stuck to one of the playout monitors so operators can catch any other undesirables, like underage drinkers in a university bar. The list unsurprisingly includes promotions like AEW, Impact Wrestling, and New Japan, and top AEW stars like Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, MJF, Cody and Brandy Rhodes, the Young Bucks, President Tony Khan, and easily the biggest WWE to AEW defection of them all, Vicky Guerrero. But But what's really interesting are those people WWE dislike so much they've put them on the ban list despite not being affiliated with their main competitor AEW. Some are obvious, like former WWE stars Chris Benoit, who committed a double murder-suicide 15 years ago in one of the darkest days in wrestling history, and Alberto El Patron, who is currently facing life in prison for kidnapping and battery charges. Others are more because they're pesky thorns in WWE's side, like Enzo Amore, who was controversially released from the company 2 years ago and has since tried to invade WWE crowds in real life. Marty Scurll, a big part of the Bullet Club angle that invaded Monday Night Raw 2 years ago, who has since found Ring of Honor distanced themselves from him following speaking out allegations. Jim Cornette, a former booker in WWE, who was most recently removed from NWA commentary after they broadcast racist comments he'd made, and who has a very outspoken podcast on the idea of wrestling being in any way fun. The controversial superstar Billy Graham, who publicly encouraged Kofi Kingston to take steroids during his WWE Championship run last year, and Ryback, who is a constant critic of his former contractor, arguing for unionization in wrestling. Others are more nefarious, like banning any images of former diva Aalyah Mysterio, who tragically died last year. Mysterio had previously alleged she was sexually assaulted while on a WWE tour of Kuwait, claiming WWE never reported it to the authorities. And oddly, are the rather insidiously political bans of the flags of Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Tibet from Thunderdome screens, implying WWE don't want to offend China, who dispute the autonomy and in some cases existence of those states. No other political censorships are visibly present on the list. But arguably the most interesting ban name wrestling politics-wise is CM Punk. Despite semi-working with them up to June this year, when his Fox Studios show WWE Backstage was unceremoniously cancelled, CM Punk's image is also included in the banned Thunderdome list. They've finally done it! After years of trying to get rid of CM Punk chants at live events, WWE can finally silence the voice of the voiceless. This same month last year, Punk made his shock kind of return to WWE, appearing unannounced on the 12th of November episode of Backstage. The next 3 months of wrestling news was dominated by CM Punk return confirmed, with Triple H teasing never say never about an in-ring WWE return for him, and Seth Rollins even starting to build a feud on Raw and social media. These were quickly shut down by Vince McMahon though, who apparently thinks you can indeed say never, reportedly never wanting to work with him ever again. And with him still being on the banned list, that never is still holding true. Hopefully soon, any mention of Retribution will also be banned from WWE. The WWE faction Retribution have been heavily mocked and criticised since debuting back in August because there's clearly no creative direction for them, and most recently they've been totally buried by the Hurt Business on back-to-back episodes of Raw, following Ali being unveiled as their leader. Ali is now promising, however, that changes are coming. Tomorrow on Raw, I turned this ship around, but I don't want you to change. I want you to continue to ignore the warning. I want you to continue having no faith in us. After all, having no faith in us is what made us in the first place. Retribution.
Mysterio W. Bush timer is up.
Sorry, Aleyah. With a picture of him looking at his phone screen rather than the camera. Classic selfie mistake. This follows Ali responding to a fan late last week who specifically called Retribution a sinking ship, where he seemingly confirmed his own frustration with WWE's booking, disowning the current creative. No, I love it. Yelling at performers about a show they don't write makes me smile. What do you think WWE can do to save Retribution, or is this just another case of a Retribution member desperately using Twitter? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'll be replying to people from outer Bodie McBoatface. Going down Titanic style. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that subscribe button to get daily wrestling videos, including our huge live reactions to this Saturday's AEW Full Gear. It's got a stacked card including Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston for the AEW World title, FTR versus the Young Bucks for the Tag Team Championships, and Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega to become the #1 contender. But far beyond any of those matches is me, Mr. Davis defending my Jam That Championship against lukewarm Luke Owen. Our predictions will be up tomorrow. Join the authority today. What are the 10 worst mistakes WWE made with the WWE Championship? Click the video on the right for Adam Blompier's latest list, crapping on Jinder Mahal's title run, and watch the entire WWE history of Steve Austin versus Mr. McMahon in just 5 minutes by clicking the video below that. I've been Mr. Davis, your Jam That Champion.